The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Yeah, I mean, we really do expect our Hollywood stars to just be invincible, don't we?
We do. When they get sick, we expect this, like, carefully crafted PR statement, maybe a few months out of the spotlight, and then boom, a triumphant, super glossy return to the red carpet.
Right, the classic comeback narrative.
Exactly. But what happens when an A-lister completely refuses to play the role of the brave, silent warrior? What happens when they decide to show us exactly how terrifying and messy and, well, undignified a chronic illness really is?
It changes everything. It really does.
Welcome to Starscope Report. We are on a mission to uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, the music industry, and pop culture. I mean, from red carpet surprises to viral controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today is a big one.
It is. Today, we are looking at a headline that has literally everyone talking. Christina Applegate finally returns home after nearly 4 months in the hospital.
4 months, which is just, it's staggering.
Right. And our goal for this deep dive is to take you, the listener, way beyond the tabloids. We want to help you understand the harrowing reality of her medical emergency, the invisible toll of filming her final roles, and the brutally honest way she is navigating multiple sclerosis in the public eye.
Because it really is a story that challenges our entire cultural perception of, celebrity health.
Yeah.
What we're looking at here is not a polished narrative of someone silently overcoming adversity.
No, not at all.
It is a very raw look at a devastating neurological disease, and she is basically forcing us to pay attention to the parts of illness that society usually wants to keep hidden away behind closed doors.
Yeah, she really is. So let's start with the inciting incident for this latest crisis, because the timeline here is it's incredibly intense. Picture this. It's late March. She is visiting family in Europe.
Yeah.
She boards a flight to head back to Los Angeles, and somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, she is hit with absolute agonizing pain.
Oh, man, on a plane. That is the worst place for that to happen.
Literally a nightmare. And it isn't a dull ache, It is overwhelming. The moment the plane lands, she doesn't even go home. She bypasses her house completely, goes straight to a Los Angeles hospital, and demands to be admitted.
Wow.
She literally tells the medical staff, I want every test that you can possibly think of, or ones that you haven't even thought of, and I want them done.
Which, honestly, is a completely rational response when you understand the level of pain she was experiencing. She described it to the doctors as feeling like her appendix was on the verge of bursting.
Right. She thought it was her appendix.
Yeah, and she was actively screaming in pain upon arrival.
And so at 2 a.m., they rush her in for an emergency CT scan, but it wasn't her appendix at all.
No, it wasn't. The scan revealed a severe kidney infection that had actually spread to both of her kidneys.
Both of them.
Yeah, which is the life-threatening situation that requires immediate intravenous antibiotics. Now, to understand why a kidney infection is an absolute nightmare scenario for someone with multiple sclerosis, we have to look at how this disease operates neurologically.
Okay, let's break that down.
Because urinary tract infections and subsequent kidney issues are actually incredibly common complications of MS.
Wait, I need to pause you right there. Because why would a brain disease cause a bladder or kidney infection? That just doesn't intuitively connect for me.
I know, it sounds weird, but it's a great question. It comes down to how your brain communicates with your organs. So MS is an autoimmune disease where the body's own immune system, specifically autoreactive T cells, crosses the blood-brain barrier and attacks the central nervous system.
Okay, so it's attacking itself.
Exactly. They destroy the myelin sheath, which you can think of as the protective insulation around your nerve fibers. When that insulation is damaged, the electrical signals from your brain misfire, or they just drop completely.
So the signal telling the bladder to empty it just doesn't make it to the destination.
Precisely. It's a loss of upper motor neuron control. The bladder muscles might become spastic, or they might not contract fully. And what that means is the bladder doesn't completely empty.
Oh, wow.
Right. And that stagnant residual urine becomes the perfect breeding ground for bacteria. So a neurological disconnect directly causes a severe physical infection. But the secondary effect of that infection is what makes it so dangerous for her.
Because there's a very clear medical distinction between a true MS relapse and a pseudo-relapse, right? If you read through the clinical neurology literature we pulled for this, they emphasize this heavily.
They really do.
Yeah.
A true relapse is caused by fresh inflammatory demyelinating events in the brain or spinal cord.
Meaning new damage.
Right, meaning new damage is actively happening and causing new or worsening symptoms that last for days or weeks. but an infection, a fever, or sometimes even just a raised body temperature from taking a hot bath.
A hot bath.
Yeah, even just a hot bath can trigger what's called a pseudo-relapse.
But how does a simple kidney infection, or like you said, a hot bath, trick the brain into thinking the MS is getting worse? Are new lesions forming during a pseudo-relapse?
No new lesions are forming. It comes down to something called conduction block. Nerve fibers that are already missing their protective myelin are hypersensitive to temperature changes and immune system stress.
Okay.
So when you have a massive infection, your core temperature rises, and your immune system floods your body with inflammatory chemicals. That heat and inflammation literally slow down the already compromised electrical signals in the damaged nerves until they just stop entirely.
Let me see if I can put this into a visual for you listening. Think of the MS immune system like a city's fragile power grid after a Category 5 hurricane.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right, so the grid is barely functioning, the wires are exposed, then a kidney infection hits. It's like a single tree falling on one power line. But because the system is already so compromised, that one downed line causes the entire city grid to short circuit and plunge into darkness.
Exactly, and the symptoms just absolutely explode.
But it makes me wonder, does this mean her MS is accelerating, or is this just a cascading complication of a body that's under constant siege?
The clinical consensus points to it being a cascading secondary complication. The infection essentially throws the body's entire ecosystem into chaos, exacerbating every single bit of existing nerve damage she already has.
It's just compounding everything.
Yes, it is a secondary complication,
Yeah.
but the agony is very, very real. The pain, the intense nausea, the sudden loss of mobility, it compounds everything. And this isn't an isolated incident.
No, she has shared that she has been to the hospital upwards of 30 times and received every test known to man since her initial diagnosis in 2021.
30 times in just a few years. It's exhausting.
If you're fascinated by how these hidden health battles unfold behind the Hollywood curtain, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our future deep dives. Because honestly, as intense as this 4-month hospital stay was, she is finally recovering at home now. But wait until you hear the shocking, invisible struggles she went through while filming her final TV role.
Because what's vital to understand here is that this hospital visit isn't just a random emergency. It's the climax of a physical breakdown that started years ago, right in front of rolling cameras.
It really is. If we rewind to August 2021, she was right in the middle of shooting the 3rd season of the Netflix series Dead to Me when she officially received her diagnosis.
But the reality is, the physical signs were flashing red long before the official diagnosis ever came down.
Yeah, she revealed that back in January of that year, her toes just went numb. Then the numbness spread to the balls of her feet.
Which is terrifying.
Right. And she would find herself randomly losing her balance and just falling over on set. She thought it was just neuropathy, and tried to push through it.
Which is an incredibly common reaction. The initial presentation of MS is often referred to as a clinically isolated syndrome. It frequently involves these weird sensory deficits or sudden bouts of unsteadiness.
People just ignore it.
Yeah, because they can be intermittent at first. People brush them off. They blame it on being tired or working long hours on their feet until the symptoms become impossible to ignore.
And it certainly became impossible to ignore on set. By the time they were deep into filming, the reality of her physical decline was staggering. She was sleeping constantly just to gather enough energy for a single take.
Just for one take.
Yeah. She eventually had to use a wheelchair just to get from her trailer to the soundstage because her legs physically could not carry her that distance. And there is a specific detail about how they actually got those scenes filmed that just, it stopped me in my tracks.
You're talking about the sound technician.
Yes. During some of the scenes where she had to appear standing, her longtime friend and sound tech, Mitch B. Cohn, would sit on the floor, completely hidden out of the camera frame, and physically hold up her legs so she could deliver her performance.
Wow. It is a profound, almost heartbreaking image of chronic illness colliding with the demands of a relentless entertainment industry.
It really is.
She was fighting to finish this role, to fulfill her commitment to the cast and crew, while her body was being subjected to the extreme physical shifts that come with aggressive MS treatments.
And the treatments sound almost as brutal as the disease itself. If you read her 2026 memoir, You with the Sad Eyes, she talks about being put on massive, high-dose steroid treatments to try and curb the inflammation.
Steroids are a standard first-line defense for MS flare-ups. But the side effects are notorious.
They really are.
They cause aggressive fluid retention, increased appetite, and massive metabolic shifts.
She said those steroids caused her to gain 40 to 50 pounds very quickly. She was so incredibly self-conscious about how drastically her face and body had changed that she refused to look in a mirror for an entire year.
An entire year. That is so heavy.
She admitted that at times the weight gain bothered her more than the actual disease, but then the pendulum swung completely in the opposite direction and her body just gave out in a different way.
Right, because MS doesn't just affect your limbs. The demyelination process can affect the autonomic nervous system, which controls your internal organs.
Okay.
So it frequently causes severe motility issues, essentially paralyzing or drastically slowing down the function of the digestive tract.
So her stomach just stopped processing food normally.
Exactly. It's a condition similar to gastroparesis. Food just sits there. She developed debilitating stomach issues, chronic diarrhea, and vomiting.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
She described a nightmare scenario where if she had to go to the bathroom, her body would simultaneously force her to throw up. It became so severe that she could no longer digest solid food and was forced onto a clear liquid diet.
Which resulted in a massive, terrifying weight drop. She lost 50+ pounds in just 7 months on that liquid diet.
50 pounds.
Yeah. She described looking down and seeing her legs being tinier than they've ever been. It's like a chemical tug of war is happening inside her, right? On one side, the steroids are artificially pumping her body up, holding on to every ounce of water to suppress her immune system. But on the other side, the disease itself is paralyzing her digestive tract, literally starving her from the inside out. How does someone maintain any sense of identity when their physical form is radically changing that fast?
That is the unseen psychological toll of a degenerative illness. You are mourning the loss of your physical self in real time, constantly.
Yeah.
Every time you adapt to a new baseline, a new weight, a new limitation, the ground shifts beneath you again. To endure that is hard enough. To endure that while the entire world is watching and commenting and judging your appearance,
Oh, the internet is brutal.
it requires a level of psychological resilience that most people will never have to summon.
She certainly kept her humor through all of it, but later in the episode, we're going to dive into the incredibly dark twist she revealed on her podcast, a confession that absolutely terrified her fan base.
It really did.
But first, we need to talk about how she chose to handle this massive wave of public scrutiny. Because she didn't hide away. She grabbed a microphone.
She did. She launched the Messy podcast alongside her friend Jamie-Lynn, who has also lived with MS for over 2 decades. And through that platform, Applegate has exhibited a fiercely defiant spirit.
Oh, she has absolutely no problem clapping back. When internet trolls flooded her social media, accusing her of being a scammer who just got terrible plastic surgery, she didn't ignore them.
No, she put them on blast.
She publicly posted screenshots of their messages and laughed at them, pointing out the sheer absurdity of blaming the visible ravages of a neurological disease on bad cosmetic work.
And her advocacy goes far beyond just defending herself.
Yeah.
She is actively defending the broader disabled community. A perfect example of this is the highly publicized moment involving accessible clothing.
Right, let's lay out exactly what happened there. Kim Kardashian's Skims brand released an advertising campaign that featured a model using a wheelchair, specifically to promote their new line of accessible clothing.
Okay.
Following this, the political commentator Candace Owens publicly criticized the campaign on her platform, calling the inclusion of the wheelchair model ridiculous.
And this is where Applegate stepped in.
Exactly. In response, Applegate stepped right into the fray to defend the campaign. She directly addressed Owens, calmly pointing out the logistical nightmare that getting dressed becomes when you have MS. She stated that it literally takes a whole team of people just to help her put her clothes on every single day.
It perfectly illustrates why adaptive clothing isn't some marketing gimmick, It's a fundamental necessity for independence and dignity.
Exactly.
By using her massive platform to highlight that reality, she forces the able-bodied public to confront the daily indignities of living with a severe physical disability.
And the daily indignities she describes are they're harrowing. She talked about relying entirely on Cottonelle wet wipes to clean her body for 3 full weeks because she was absolutely terrified to step into her glass shower.
3 weeks?
Yeah. She explained the fear vividly, saying, "You can fall, you can slip, your legs can buckle."
The fear of falling is a constant suffocating companion for someone with advanced MS guy. And this brings us to a crucial element, the psychological reality of the disease itself.
Right.
Clinical neurology tells us that depression and severe anxiety are disproportionately common in MS patients.
But I have to ask, is the depression just a natural human reaction because her physical situation is so objectively terrible? Or is the MS physically causing the depression in her brain?
It's actually a combination of both. Yes, the grief of losing your mobility is profound,
Yeah.
but neurologically, the demyelination process, the scarring we talked about earlier,
Right, the damaged myelin.
exactly, that scarring can occur in the frontal or temporal lobes of the brain. When those specific neural pathways are damaged, it directly disrupts the brain's ability to regulate emotion and mood. The brain chemistry is physically altered by the scars.
Wow. So it's anatomical.
Yes. So she is fighting psychological symptoms that are just as biologically rooted as her physical ones.
That makes perfect sense, and it makes the stories she tells even more heartbreaking. She has shared moments of lying in bed screaming from sharp shooting nerve pains, and the emotional agony of realizing how this disease affects her daughter, Sadie.
That part is so tough.
She said it felt like her daughter lost the mom she used to have, and she deeply mourns for the mother she used to be.
When you combine that level of daily, unrelenting physical pain with a neurological disruption of mood, it leads to very, very dark places.
Which brings us to the confession on her podcast in June 2024 that sent shockwaves through her audience. She admitted point blank, "I don't enjoy living. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy things anymore."
The public reaction to that statement was immediate panicked concern.
People were terrified.
They really were.
Yeah.
But if we analyze this from the perspective of chronic illness advocacy, what she was expressing is an incredibly common, totally valid state of exhaustion. She later had to walk those comments back slightly to reassure her fans that she wasn't in immediate danger, explaining that she simply needed a safe space to vocalize the dark, depressing reality of her bad days.
She said it's incredibly healing to be able to express those dark thoughts out loud, even if it makes the people listening uncomfortable. And honestly, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button, because the way she uses dark humor to survive this discomfort is something every listener needs to understand.
Humor is a well-documented coping mechanism for severe trauma, but the way she wields it is fascinating.
She wields it like a weapon.
Right.
Think back to her appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. She comes out onto the stage with her cane, receives this massive emotional standing ovation, and immediately jokes that she was thinking about doing a Willy Wonka somersault onto the stage just to trick everyone into thinking she was faking her disability.
Oh my God, yes.
The audience erupts in laughter. Kimmel jokes that they share a sick sense of humor, but when you really think about it, this humor coexists with the reality where she has already purchased her own burial plots.
And that is the ultimate insight here. She isn't just using dark humor to cope with her own pain. She is actively weaponizing her humor to make the able-bodied public comfortable with her mortality.
Wow, say more about that.
Well, society doesn't know how to act around severe illness,
Yeah.
right? People get tense, they pity you, they avert their eyes. By joking about a Willy Wonka somersault while simultaneously preparing her burial arrangements, she takes the burden of the audience's discomfort onto her own shoulders. It is a masterful, exhausting performance of resilience.
Wow. That completely changes how I look at that Kimmel interview. So bringing it all back to the headline that started this deep dive, Christina Applegate finally returns home after nearly 4 months in the hospital.
Yeah.
This isn't just a story about a long medical stay for a kidney infection. It is a profound masterclass in human endurance. She recently posted an update for you, her fans, right after she got discharged.
What did she say?
She showed a picture of her favorite Kissy Kissy mug resting on top of a copy of her memoir and wrote a simple message. "Health issues are a constant for me, but I'm a strong chick and I'm getting stronger and better every day."
That single update is the perfect synthesis of her entire public journey with MS Grit. The power of her transparency is shifting the culture. She is refusing to give the public a sanitized, PR-approved narrative of illness.
Exactly.
She's not hiding the drastic weight gain or the terrifying weight loss, the cottonelle wipes, or the deep despair. By sharing the messy, agonizing, darkly funny reality of her life, she is completely reframing how pop culture understands and discusses chronic disease.
Think about the last time you watched a beloved star step away from the screen due to a massive health crisis. How often do we demand that they put on a brave, silent, inspiring face solely for our comfort, rather than letting them just be human, messy, and in pain?
It's something we all need to think about.
It really is. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.